What's good, historians? Welcome to Black Tampa Historians Podcast, where we will be spilling the tea on the city's Black history. I'm yours truly, Ashley Morrow. For your podcast today, we will be sitting with Andre Hill, the living legend from Blake High School's 6970 football state championship team. If you're in the comments, be sure to type in where you're tuning in from, and we're going to jump right into things. First, we're going to bring on Mr. Hill. How are you doing, Mr. Hill?
I'm great, Ashley. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We had an interaction. I first met Mr. Hill at why were you there? We were at an event for the Johnson Foundation.
Right. So one of the publishing groups that's working on our new book, Lucifer's Revenge, invited me to attend that affair because they wanted to develop the camaraderie for writers and publishers.
Right.
So it all worked out real well.
Yeah, and Mr. Hill is an author, so he'll be telling us about that later. I was in there randomly. I just happened to fall in there and was like, let me see what's going on. And we met, and I was telling him I love Black history, and then it just happened by chance that he was on the championship team for my alma mater, Blake High School, Howard W. Blake High School. And in these questions that we're going to get into, he was there during a time during that civil rights era. And it was just a different time and different things were going on, but he's going to tell us about it. We're going to jump into the first question. To give listeners a better understanding of the people that were at Blake High School in 1969, can you share some details about the players as a whole, specifically which neighborhoods did most of the players come from, and how did the diversity within the team contribute to its strength and unity?
So we had West Tampa was a unique neighborhood. It was divided up in about three sections. You had Hyde Park, you had the telehome development on North Boulevard. Then you had some houses west of there, northwest of there, of different individuals in single family units. So it was a nice mixture. We had the North Boulevard homes were a concentrated population of different individuals and that offered with different athletic talents. And so, that consistency is what made us a great team. Not only in 69-70, but all the prior years, we had state championship caliber teams. And quite a few of the guys went on to become professional players.
I heard. What was the one you just introduced me to?
Eddie McMillan. Eddie McMillan was he graduated from Blake in 69, the year before we won the state championship. So he was recruited on to Florida State, and after Florida State, he was drafted into the NFL by the Los Angeles Rams. So he spent 7 years in the NFL. He played at Buffalo, and he ended his career with the Seattle Seahawks. So right. He's looking forward to talking with you in a future show.
Yeah. He was very animated. We definitely have to bring him back. He reminds me of my daddy. But again, around that time, 1969, if the viewers are not aware, 1969 was the year before all of the busing and the integration of all the school systems happened. So it was kind of a very important time for these young athletes' lives. The gentleman that he was just speaking on, he graduated and he ended up going to school. What grades were you in when you?
That year I was a senior.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the players were seniors. They also played on the prior year. The prior year, we went 0-9 as a football team. And it was a mix-up. I don't know if it was the new coach, Abe Brown, of Abe Brown Ministries, getting acclimated to the players. But, once he settled down, we had the privilege of having the former coach Jim Williams come back that particular year, 69, 70,
Mm-hmm.
and help Abe Brown. Abe Brown and Jim Williams were in college together. As a matter of fact, Abe Brown was the center and Jim Williams was the quarterback. So he went on to coach on the college level.
Awesome.
And so when they came back and they teamed up together, they helped develop one heck of an offense and defense that took us on to win a state championship.
Well, that's pretty cool. So I remember you said that one of he went off to school, but you guys were 0-9. So we're like, did he have a good setup, or something like that? I'm curious as to what was going on. He was that dope that he was like, okay, everybody else is not doing too good, but him right there. What position did he play?
Eddie lived about 100 yards from me in West Tampa, and he played offense and defense, but he played offense, and I don't think things went too well. As a matter of fact, I know they didn't, at that particular year. But he ran track, and he was a high hurdler, and he ran the 100-yard dash. So he was phenomenal. If you go on YouTube and type in Eddie McMillan at Florida State, man, he ran a kickoff back one time. He left the entire field behind, like he was like a comet or something running this touchdown. So he was a phenomenal athlete, a natural. I think he was a Sagittarius like you.
Okay, that's cool.
And but he was extremely fast.
That's awesome. Well, I know that was some cornbread fed men back then. Y'all used to be running things back then, honey. So what about, can you speak on your specific plays or strategies that you may have had during your championship year? Like, what helped you guys get to that winning status? Like, you went from, it was two polar opposites. I guess maybe it was the coaching styles, or like, were there specific plays? Like, you guys were a running team or a throwing team? What was it?
So it was a mixture of plays that were ran, but I think what Jim Williams brought back to the team was a diversity of plays, of elaborate defensive plays to shut down any opposing team's offense. So we had a situation, especially in the championship game. I played defense at that time. In the championship game, they had a quarterback wide receiver duo that was burning up the rest of the teams. That's why they made it to the playoffs to play against us.
Right.
So what the coach came up with a play where, as a defensive end, I would play my position instead of on the line. I would play directly in front of the wide receiver and hit him before he went out. And so what that did is slowed down their combination in time enough for my defensive back to come up and check him before he can score a touchdown. So we won that game like 26-6. I think that was the score.
And that was allowed. So are the rules of football different now, would you say?
Oh yeah, it was much different because when I got in college and I switched to wide receiver, you used to hit linebacker below the knees, so they changed those rules. But so basically all I was doing was just tapping him just before he would run out.
Just throw him off.
Slow him down. And every football is about inches and speed, time. So a second to slow him down, a second the play is already in progress. That gives our defensive linebackers and linemen time to get in and check the quarterback. So it worked. And so Jim Williams was the real genius behind in the game, because he was the head coach at Blake before Abe Brown was shifted to the school, and he won a few championships in those prior years before we started playing the Caucasian schools.
Oh, okay. So when did you guys start playing the Caucasian schools?
60, I don't quote me on this, but I
No problem.
believe it was 68, 69, in what the years that we started playing them. Before then, we were playing most of the black schools throughout Florida and even some in Georgia.
Okay, so was it a big deal when it was like, okay, now we're gonna see these blacks pit these black schools against the white school, the Caucasian schools?
Well, so yeah, it was a big deal because Blake was a single A school, and the other schools like Hillsborough, Plant, and all that, they were triple A schools.
Mm-hmm.
So we were beating them as a single A
So it was a
school.
problem. So it was it a big
Yeah.
deal? It was a big deal. It must have been from y'all to move from this. You said CA.
No, so so it was single A, meaning one
Single
A
A. Okay.
versus triple A.
Triple
So
A. Okay. Okay.
right. So that was based on the number of students you had at the school. So most of the schools
Oh,
had twice as more, or three times as many students to pull from.
got you.
Uh,
But
you
all
know,
y'all know how to
for,
play football in there, so that's we all
yeah,
playing. So that's
yeah,
very interesting. I feel like it says like Big Jim or something. Was that his nickname?
that was him, Big
Okay.
Jim Williams.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. It says Big Jim Stadium. I think that's what it is. That sounds very familiar. Either Big Jim Garage or Big Jim Stadium. So we see these names and we don't recognize or know who this person's named after. So I feel like every school, like I worked at Armwood. I feel like since y'all don't teach anything that first week anyways, do things like, especially if it's a school named after a black person, do things like teach the kids why this school is named that, or certain significant things, to so these kids are just educated, because once you get all the kids together, somebody gonna know something about each school. At least you gonna know about your school, and I'm gonna know about my school, and our powers combined, if somebody's asking us about this, we can piece things together and say, oh, we're named after Blanche Armwood, and that was around the 1920s when she did XYZ, blase squaze. Oh, we're at Blake
right.
High School. Big Jim Williams is this person. Don Thompson is this person. Like, you can start naming things and know its significance. I think that it's important that these kids just know the history of the school. It kind of instills some pride in them. And then some of the kids, their parents or grandparents attended the old Blake, and they feel prideful about that. So give them something to be proud of.
Yeah, well, you have to understand, if you don't get out and do what you're doing, like right now, you're preserving the history. If nobody take the handle and promote it, then no, the other cultures, they're going to promote themselves. They're not going to promote us. So we have to come together and support people like you to putting the word out there and mandate that this history is shared.
You're right. Yeah, no, I'm honored to be able to have this conversation with you, because this is something like, it's really near and dear to my heart, because I'm here at my big age, my 34 age, and I'm like, why didn't I know this? Like, but it's access to the information as well. Everybody doesn't have a grandparent that went here or lived here. So I never shame somebody for not knowing something, because I'm just learning things myself. And I'm going to keep learning things. You'll never know everything. I'll never have the experience of somebody that lived here during that time that you lived here, during the 60s, 70s era. It's just an interesting time.
Oh yeah.
Let me say, with the school being moved from Stewart to the current Blake High School, do you feel
Right.
less connected to the alma mater?
Yeah, it took something out of the soul of the Blake High spirit. One generation passing the mantle to the next generation. I think it was lost in that during that period between when the school was shut down and then when it was rebuilt. So a lot of the students from your generation are not connected to us. Of course, they had some pictures in the hallway. They have them now of all the different classes that graduated. But we have an alumni and booster club, and I worked with it for a few years when I returned back home 11 years ago, and we tried to connect with the kids in a way we did, and working in the food stand and all that. But it's something, the soul was lost.
Yeah.
And that was done intentional by the ruling cultures that had no interest in maintaining our history and our status and how we contributed to the city of Tampa.
No, I feel that, and I think a way of connecting would be them knowing their history. If they were taught about Stewart first being Blake and then taken over there to be shown how school was back then, or where classes were conducted, how PE was conducted. Where was your football field? I remember you guys didn't have a football field, did you?
So we had a practice field, which was right next between Stewart, where it is Stewart now, and the river. So that's where we practiced. We had a track field back there. I was on the track team my junior year, and so we didn't have an official stadium. Back in the day, in the 60s, there was Phillips Stadium.
Oh, Julian B. Lane is where it was?
It.
Okay.
Exactly. That's where Phillips Field were located. So I remember as a little boy going down to the field, watching, and this is how the soul of the Yellow Jackets, the Blake High School, the Middleton Tigers, was passed on from generation to generation. It was fresh. Each new class was able to see, touch, and feel the stars and the majorettes and the band players and all of that. They were able to pass that spirit on. We had a big disconnect, and that was done intentionally. Well, the intentions was just to erase our history completely, and take the glory for the athletes contributing, to other cultures.
In the context of the Civil Rights era, did the team face any additional challenges or discrimination? How did these experiences shape your perspective on the championship and its aftermath?
They couldn't affect us too much in terms of, because all of our coaches were Black, Native Americans, Aboriginals, and, so they treated us fairly. There wasn't much discrimination there. But when we played the game, we had to win. We had to really win, because if you left a margin of error where a referee could decide the game, you would lose that game.
Awesome. And then I think I read somewhere that somebody unraveled a Confederate flag or something like that during a game. Did that really happen? I read it in the Tampa Times, and what it said was flag. Okay. He says, in fact, athletics appeared to improve relationships. Brown said the biggest Confederate flag he had ever seen was unfurled in Lake City when Blake played Columbia High in the Class A state semifinals. But he's quick to point out that he developed a long relationship with Columbia coach Paul Quinn because both teams played good, sound football.
So that was a playoff game.
Okay.
That wasn't locally in the Tampa area. That was the playoff. I think that was the next to the final game for the championship. So Lake City, from what I remember, it was all Caucasians on the team, and so the Black folks that lived in Lake City, they came to support us. And when we were beating them, man, those guys were so happy we beat them, because they hadn't integrated the school yet where Black players could play on the Caucasian team that made it to the playoffs. So those guys were so happy we were beating them. They gave us money. But we ended up having to have a police escort to get out of town.
That's interesting. That's not normal. See how you forget that whole story? Like, that would be something that's like, did you know? You probably got other stories, and it's just like, oh no, that was just some little spat that was going on. They was mad. That's it. But did you ever get injured? Did you ever get injured during the games or anything?
No, that was my first year playing as a senior, and so the really funny thing about my introduction to the football team, my family was well established. We ran businesses and what have you, And this is a little unknown history fact. So I wanted to be a wide receiver. And so the first time they allowed me to run that position, I scored a touchdown in practice. And so also, whenever I play defense, when you play defensive end, your job is to keep the team from running to the outside.
Yeah.
So anytime I played that position, nobody never turned the corner on me. So I think the coaches used me as an incentive. So you're gonna let this guy who's a businessman and a socialite, y'all gonna let him outplay you, and I think that's one of the motivating factors where everybody played their best football.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it's the only reason. We had some good players. We had a brother named Donnie Roseborough. He was NFL caliber running back. We had Dwight Edgecombe, NFL caliber running back.
Was he related to George Edgecombe?
Yes, he's George Edgecombe's younger brother.
Cool.
We had Henry Cummins, who I sent you his telephone number. He was a world-class sprinter and hurdler. Lionel Ballard, you know, he was a solid quarterback, 6'4". He could see over the line, you know. So, you know, these guys, you know, we had the talent, but we had, I believe the coaches, you know, they played the head games to get the best out of a player. That's what a coach's job to do. So I was fortunate. I did not get injured until later on in my college days up at FAMU.
Oh, you played at FAM. So who was your favorite coach?
Well, the funny part about it, you know, I was kind of a jokester. And both of Jim Brown and Jim Williams and Abe Brown, both of them played college. They were in school with my mother. So she used to tell me about the names that they used to call him. So I was standing. So I said, "Oh, I know his nickname now." So I would stand in front of the school, wait around the corner, and call out their nicknames, and run around the corner to get away from them. So I really didn't have a favorite coach. They were both fantastic men. They were men that left an impression on me to raise my standards as a man, and I love those guys and I respected them.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. You did an amazing job answering these questions. And if you do you have anything else you want to say? Well, you know,
once again, there is a paradigm shift on the horizon, and you know, I'm really excited about young people like yourself getting involved in resurrecting history, because that history will help people recognize and understand our contribution to this city and to the entire planet. So, you know, keep up the good work. I'm going to encourage everybody, the guys that are on the team, the alumni, the Booster Club, you know, to help you, to assist you with giving you information so that you can bring this history out and set a precedence for historians all over the world. Because, you know, unfortunately, I know why these different cultures are insecure about us, and that's in my new book, Lucifer's Revenge. But
well, you bet. Shameless plug. When is that coming out? Where can they find you? Is there a way to find you?
Well, they can go to. We're on Facebook and we're on YouTube. We're called the Straight Talk Network, Straight Talk Morning Show. You can watch some of our shows. We will reconvene our broadcast in about a month. We're going to be promoting our book, so that it's designed to fortify the spiritual self-esteem of melanated people. That's what this book is designed to do. So we're going to be promoting that book and promoting our people and our culture.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing, and I think that we are out of time. So from the OG spots on Central Ave to the latest vibes, we're chatting with historians, creatives, everyday legends, and their descendants. Follow this page, hit play, and let's make some Tampa Bay history together. This is Ashley Morrow signing off. Goodbye.
Peace out.
Don't walk away. Don't walk